Okay, y'all. So, welcome to the third and final video of this Antarctica video trilogy series. Um, wow, it's been a saga, right? We talked about how I got to Antarctica and talked about what a journey it was. Of course, coming from Okinawa to Antarctica. Then I actually talked about the trip itself in the second video. So, if you haven't watched those first two videos, you might want to check them out. I think I'm going to try and link them in the title here. But now, of course, we got to go home. And let me tell you the story about how we got home from Antarctica. Yeah, it's just as, in some ways, exciting, but it's kind of unpredictable. It was to us when we were going through it. But I think you're going to enjoy the story. If you like these videos, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel for more stuff, to hear about my work and my announcements and other projects that I'm working on. I got a lot of them, but right, for now, let's jump into the way home. So to begin with, the very last day, that's where I left off, right? I left off at, we had done Deception Island, they had canceled the trip, the last shore excursion, and then there was dinner that night. So that night, during the briefing recap, they told us this is what we can expect for the flight back. Now, just like the flight there was dependent on the weather, everything's always dependent on the weather in Antarctica. So our flight wasn't scheduled until, I think it was 10 p.m. that night, that next night. So as you can imagine, this was kind of late at night because there's no really activities planned during the day, because that day is kind of you never know when the weather window is going to open up. So that day is kind of a floating day for them. So we had a couple of briefings, a couple more presentations, and they were very entertaining presentations, very cool. And then we just kind of hung out. So this has been the scene all day. Technically, the cruise was supposed to end yesterday or today. We were already supposed to be off the boat, but it's about a little after 6 p.m. and we've been just all day because the weather's just been so bad that they can't fly in. So we've already had to change our flights and deal with the COVID tests on the way back. And yeah, we haven't really done anything today. We just kind of slept and we ate lunch. We missed breakfast. We just finished a talk of one of the guys, just incredible stories about spending summers down here and things like that. But yeah, hopefully we're able, the weather breaks and we're able to get a flight out tonight to start heading home. So that's the plan. But look at this blizzard conditions outside. Yeah, it's really nasty. You can't really see because the door's closed, but hopefully it changes by tonight so we can start heading home. You know, a lot of us, we're just in the lounge. There's the window. We had to leave. We had breakfast, lunch, dinner. They still served us, but we had to leave our rooms by 10 p.m. So 10 p.m. starts rolling around, and there's no plane. We're not getting we're not making any preparations. So I guess the plane was delayed. So considering it's our last night here, Joanna and I, we hadn't made it up to the bridge at all. So we decided to check it out. Of course, it's snowing up here, but you can see it's not a lot to see up here, but the view's really nice. You see the mountains over there? Checking the mountains out. What? No, I don't think we're supposed to go out there. She's trying to go up there, get in trouble last night. You can see all the zodiacs and all the gear. You can see it's snowing pretty good outside, but we're already out of our cabin, so we're just kind of waiting until it's time for us to go. But you can see the little church where we first saw the first day. It looks way different right now. Oh, careful. Shit. Careful, man. He's trying to go in there and rescue you.
And they're trying to look in the bridge, get in trouble. Captain looking comfy. Oh shit, we're really on this thing. It's the front of the ship. Very front. Oh good, oh, wait a minute. I thought they were me. What are you doing over there? I guess I'm just too conditioned by the military. Oh, we gotta walk on this thing again. No big deal. Just a drop over there. Just a little drop. Just ignore it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Just keep moving. Yeah, you can see the bridge. I don't know how much we spoke to. It's probably a sensitive area, but you can see she driving. Yeah, that's probably. She just waved at us. Look, they got all their little flags, Navy flags for various signaling down there. That's pretty cool. And that's the bridge. Oh, look at that. Nice break in the clouds. So we don't have to walk on that damn blue. Oh, my heart. Oh, thank God we don't make it sorry.
Because of the weather. And the weather had been pretty bad that day. Like, it was snowing, it was windy, like it just seemed like it wasn't a very safe day to fly or to come into Antarctica. So finally, around, I think it was 11 p.m. that night, they were like, okay, it's time to actually leave the ship, leave the boat. So we said our goodbyes. We got on the Zodiac the very last time.
This is the last ride. Headed back. Yeah. See you tonight.
Just a little bit, so
the ship. The ship is great.
sorry.
Yellow Explorer.
Right about now, you can have a cup of coffee and see the sunset and the sunrise at the same time.
That's amazing. Great time. You like it, baby?
And then we headed to land, the same beach where we had come up a little less than a week before. So we make the hike again. This time it's more at nighttime. So remember how I mentioned in the last video how it never really got dark. And now I can confirm that because it was about, I don't know, a little after midnight when we're making this hike back towards the runway, back towards the freight station where we had come in to catch the plane out.
Okay, so we started our march back towards the aircraft the way we came up. Say goodbye to the crew. Oh. Joanna fixed my bag. And it looks like it's sunrise, but it's 01 a.m. I think it's Monday morning. So you can see the little house on the hill there. So yeah, we're just gonna make our way back. And I expected it to be a little bit colder. I mean, it's cold, don't get me wrong, it's cold. I'm gonna be glad to get out of the cold, but it's not as bad as I thought. It's about as bad. I told you so. And I'm like, well, shit, I didn't know. I didn't know how cold it was gonna be. I just know it's Antarctica, 01 in the morning. As you can see, they were saying sunset, sunrise, no snow, so That's nice. And it's just kind of nice scenery. You can see around. You can see the multicolored sunrise, sunset. Yeah, good stuff. And we're back home. They're home.
So we hiked back up, and it's pretty cold. Yeah, I mean, this is nighttime Antarctica, so it was probably like high 20s. The wind was blowing pretty good, so it wasn't too comfortable, but we didn't really anticipate being out there that long because we were like, okay, we're just gonna go walk back, and then the plane's gonna come in, and then we're gonna leave, or so we thought. So we get to kind of the staging area, the place like the last place, like before we walk back on the runway, because you had to walk along the runway to board the plane, and the plane is kind of delayed. Like the plane doesn't come for a while, so we're standing out there probably for another, I don't know, 30-45 minutes, and then finally we see the lights and the plane lands, and I'll probably show the video of the plane landing. It's pretty cool.
Penguin Express.
The plane's painted by like a penguin, by the way, kind of the same types of color scheme and everything. It's pretty cute. So the plane lands, and we're just waiting for them to give us the green light to walk down and board the plane. But what's happening is they're transferring the next batch of passengers, and this is how they do their trips, like one after the other. So the next batch of passengers is flying in on that flight. So we have to wait for them to deplane and walk down, do the whole walk, just like we had done a couple of days before. We have to wait for that until we can get on the same plane to go back home. So we're standing, and then we hear the radios going off on some of the crew's radios, and they're like, yeah, when the plane landed, there's been a flat tire on the aircraft.
So the plane landed about, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes ago, but now they're telling us the plane got a flat tire. Just now when it was landing. So they're like, oh, it's going to be a delay. And we just out here. So yeah, we don't know what's coming next. They said it's going to be a delay. Obviously, they got to change the tire. I mean, look at this runway. It's all rocks. I mean, yeah, chance to get a flat tire pretty high. So, yeah, we're just going to be waiting out here. I don't know how long. It's like a lot of things in this trip. I mean, this is just the first leg. We haven't even left Antarctica yet, and we're not even on the way home yet. And we got a... got a long way to go before we get back home, y'all. This is gonna be a long way to Okinawa from here. Oh my God. Oh.
And we're gonna have to, of course, fix the flat tire before we can proceed. And we're like, oh my God, why you get a flat tire? Because remember, this is a dirt runway, so anything can happen when you're landing. I mean, you're landing a plane, so anything could happen. So the tire went bust, so we're waiting some more. And like I told you, it's cold. It's wind's blowing. Luckily, it's not snowing, so we're not wet, but it's pretty freaking cold. And we weren't really prepared to stay out there for a long time. So at this point, we've been out there for maybe like an hour and a half, and we had to wait some more.
So we were going to wait at the plane, and now they were like, well, it's too windy over there to walk over there. So we're not going to go there. But what she did tell us what we can do is jump up and down like a penguin. You just can't make this stuff. We got told the remedy is if you cold, jump up and down like a penguin. Several people started doing That's Joanna's finger. Oh, yeah, oh, don't go over there. Oh, okay.
So finally, the next group of people comes down. We see them pass by. So we know they're on their way. And a tragic story, by the way, as they're passing by, unfortunately, this woman who had just gotten off the plane, she falls and I guess hurts herself or something. I didn't see what happened, but she kind of goes down and there's some kind of medical attention happening. The crews are doing basic stuff, and she had to end up going back on the plane with us back to Chile. So that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, but somebody in the other group, the lady fell, and I think she got hurt or something. So that like slowed the whole process up. So I hope she's okay. But I mean, and then of course the flat tire. So it's already been an eventful morning / evening. I don't know what time of day it is, but it's something else going on out here. But we're still out here. We've been out here for maybe 35, 40 minutes, going on an hour. It's 2 now, so yeah, we've been out here for a little bit. And it's probably, I don't know, 26, 25, yes, it's maybe like 28 degrees. It's cold, but we're surviving. We're jumping like penguins. We'll be all right.
For that to happen, very unfortunate. To get all the way down there and not be able to go on the trip, I just can't even imagine. It's pretty devastating. So that happens. They pass by, and then finally we're able to make the walk, get to the plane, and then there's another, I want to say like 20 minutes or so that we're waiting for them to finish up the changes on the tire.
The tire blew out.
Reset the plane enough to where we can get on and leave, and then we get on. And at this point, it's probably like 2 in the morning, maybe even later. I don't remember what time it was, but we're pretty exhausted because we've just been up all day waiting for the plane. And so we had dinner, at a normal time, maybe around 7:30, and that was it. So we're hungry, we're tired, we've been standing for maybe 2.5, going on 3 hours. It's super cold. Like, I remember there was really no assigned seats. You just kind of sit down. It was very much reminiscent of a military flight, to where, okay, you kind of sit where you sit. And for some reason, we ended up sitting like right next to the door. And oh my God, that was a big mistake, because it's windy, it's cold. We're still in Antarctica. So we're just sitting by this door, and I remember I was in the aisle seat, and we hadn't had time to go. We hadn't had a chance to go to the bathroom either, because the only bathrooms there, I imagine, are in like the bases. So you'd have to like ask permission and all this stuff. So having gone to the bathroom, just really, very uncomfortable situation. I remember just sitting there like in my aisle seat, like the door right in front of me just blowing, and I'm in my entire, polar space suit, and I'm just like trying to stay warm, trying to like, okay, like I'm just tired, exhausted, knowing that I'm not getting sleep tonight, because I can't sleep on the plane, like I said. So and that was only the beginning. We hadn't even left Antarctica, and we're already, well, at least I was. I'm not gonna speak for my wife, but I was already just beat down, just like, oh my God, this is going to be a long trip home. So the flight finally leaves. We land back in Punta Arenas, and it was already dawn when we get there. It's like 5 a.m. or something, maybe 6, around there. So we take the bus back to our hotel.
Made it back to Punta Arenas. It was a long road. Now we're just getting our bags. Get the bags. COVID test. Crazy now, crazy. Look at that.
And before, let me back up a little bit, because when we were on the ship, we knew, because of the time when the flight was scheduled. I told you the flight was scheduled to leave Antarctica pretty late, like around 10. So that meant that we were going to miss our like commercial flight back to from Punta Arenas to go back to Santiago. It was supposed to be Punta Arenas directly to Santiago. So while we were on the ship, we got help from one of the staff members who spoke Spanish, she thankfully coordinated a new flight for us, but it meant we had to stop in another little town called Puerto Montt in Chile. So it added another leg to the flight back. So that was the first kind of wrinkle. So when we landed in Punta Arenas, this totally scrambled our flight plan to where we basically had time to shower. I remember we showered, we slept for maybe like 30 minutes, literally 30 minutes, and then we got up to take another COVID test. And this was going to be the COVID test that was going to be our like ticket back home. So we take the COVID test, and we don't get the results until later. We just had to get to the plane, and pretty much immediately we were back on the bus back to the airport. I mean, it was probably the quickest turn and burn I've had in many years. Like since I was active duty, I haven't done that type of just touch and go in a long time. And I forgot how much it just sucks because you're just disoriented, you're tired. We had time to sneak in some breakfast down at the hotel breakfast area, but not much. And then just straight back to the next flight. So we head back to the airport. Next flight was to Puerto Montt. Puerto Montt, the flight was just stopping over, so some people got off. Did we get off? I don't think we got off the plane. We didn't get off, that's right. We stayed on. And then we just continued on to Santiago. So this time, we knew what to expect in Santiago, and it sure didn't disappoint. So we get there, and of course, the super long line to get our flight back to the States. Now we're getting ready to go back to the States to pass through. Is mega long line. The line is like an hour-long wait. It was ridiculous. And to top it off, along the way, the attendants are asking people about their flights, and they're asking if you have this XY, do you have your vaccination passport, all the stuff we had to give when we first got to Chile. It was almost like that in reverse, but they needed different stuff this time. Yeah, I don't know what happened while we were in Antarctica, but it was just like, all I know is I remember showing my SOFA driver's license, like my driver's license here in Okinawa, which isn't like, it's different from like the state driver's license. It's like a special driver's license that we have here in Japan. And I remember showing that as like proof that I was living in Japan, because they were asking for all this stuff, even though I'm like, we're US citizens, so why are we having to provide, like, we're basically going back to our home country, like, even though we live in Japan. But I think they were kind of confused by that. So I ended up giving like my mom's address. I don't know why they needed it, but they wanted it, so we wrote it down, and then they gave us another paper that's like, this is like for going back to the States. That I never used that paper. And I asked them, like, when are they gonna ask for this paper? They're like, oh, they'll ask you over there. And they never asked for it. So this type of stuff happened while we were in line. Another thing, major thing that happened while we were in line was that we found out that our flight that we thought was, when we booked the ticket, it was from Santiago to JFK in New York City. Turned out that flight had another stop in Lima, Peru. Yeah. And all of us were totally kind of bamboozled. Like, there were other people that were going to New York, back to the States in line, and it was like, Peru? That wasn't on the itinerary. And we don't know where it showed up, but all of a sudden it was there. And so it's like, okay, I guess we're flying to Peru now. So we get on the flight, and it actually wasn't too long of a flight. Well, I forget. At this point, it's been a super long day. We're just super tired. And I forget how long the flight was. Maybe it was like 3 hours or something from Santiago to Lima. It wasn't that bad. I remember I watched, what did I watch? Did I watch Mortal Kombat? I think I watched Mortal Kombat. And which, Mortal Kombat's a funny movie, y'all. The new one, the 2021 movie. I remember watching the old ones, like, back when I was a kid. But, yeah, it's a funny movie. Like, great for action and stuff. Of course, light on story, but I mean, lots um, Mortal Kombat fan service. If you like Mortal Kombat, then maybe you'll probably like the movie. Anyway, so yeah, get to Peru, and I remember Peru that they were requiring double masks for COVID. Like, and this just shows you how different every country is, like, handles COVID. Like, everybody, all the attendants, double mask. I mean, so I never passed through that airport before, but the Lima airport was just awesome. Very beautiful airport. We were only there for a few hours, but at this point, I mean, I think it was like a little around midnight that we landed there. We were just exhausted. Like, it's been, I told you, we barely had. It took us a long time to get out of Antarctica. The entire day we're traveling. We're trying to make sure we have all our documents, COVID tests, all this stuff, and we're just destroyed by the time we get to Peru. So finally, we're like, okay, let's just get on this flight. We get on the flight from Peru to New York, and that flight wasn't too bad, actually. I don't remember it too well because I was pretty much out, like, in and out. I wasn't really paying attention to the stuff on the flight. It was just one of those, like, okay, let's just get through it and get there. So we land in JFK in New York.
New York City. New York City.
Probably like, I don't know, maybe 9-10 hours later. And it was super smooth. I mean, here I was expecting, and this is, of course, before the Omicron wave had, sent cases spiking. But yeah, there was no COVID really much going on. We just kind of got our flight. Now we're transferring, because we had been on LATAM Airlines, and LATAM Airlines, as I said in the first video, not my favorite airline. I'm just gonna say that. But this time we're getting back on JAL, Japanese Airlines. The lady's super nice. We had time to actually eat breakfast, get some coffee, kind of chill, relax a little bit for the first time in like 2 days, basically. And then it was on to Tokyo. So we get on our flight to go to Tokyo, and there is nobody on the plane.
You can really see the effect of the Japanese travel ban on the travel. Because all of our flights from in South America were just normal. They were normal packed flights. These flights, you can see, nobody's going. And they still had this is the middle of December, today's the 13th. So I think it was 14th. It's the middle of December 2021, and they still got their travel ban in effect. So unless you live or work in Japan, you really don't have a reason to go, because they're not going to let you in. And even us, we still have to quarantine for a while for their regulations for 10 days when we get back. So good for us, because this flight's going to be light, but yeah, it's definitely different than the standard flight. So let's get ready to go.
I mean, it was like a freaking ghost plane. Like, I've never seen a full commercial flight so empty. And I show a few pictures or videos at this point in the video, but it was amazingly empty. I want to say there was like 25, 26 people on the flight, including us. I've never seen the JL stewardesses so bored. I've never seen it. Like, usually they're up and they're doing stuff the entire time. And JFK to Tokyo is a long flight. That's a haul. It was probably like 13 hours.
It's proof that we hit both sides of the planet. Now we're flying over the Arctic Ocean. Antarctic. Now we're at the Arctic. I'm about to fly that again. Yeah, so I'm about halfway through the flight now. A little over halfway. Almost there.
And the entire time. They were just super attentive. The food was just awesome. They gave us we were stuffed. They gave us so much food. I mean, like their regular meals are great, but they were just, hey, do you want this? Do you want that? It was pretty amazing. I mean, their customer service is always spectacular on JAL, but this time it was like triple S class because wasn't nobody else there. So we land in Tokyo, Haneda Airport, back where we started. Basically, when we left Okinawa, we're almost home, and now it's on to the Japanese COVID procedures. And there's a reason why that flight was empty, because the Japanese COVID restrictions are kind of ridiculous right now. Like, you have to basically, if you're not living here in Japan or you're not like a Japanese resident, you should not come to Japan at this point. And this is December when I'm filming this. Like, it's still the same way right now. Like, it's 14-day mandatory quarantine. And they're pretty strict about, like, you cannot take public transportation. You need to have a place to stay that is preferably your own house or somebody of a relative or whatever. So obviously we live in Okinawa. We don't live in Tokyo. So that was a problem for us. So we were fortunate enough a couple of days earlier when we were still on the ship to secure lodging, or actually not when we were still on the ship. After we had gotten off the ship, we were fortunate enough to secure lodging at Air Force Inns at Yokota Air Base. So we take the bus we get there late. Well, let me back up a little bit and get to the COVID screening. So when we get through the first thing we do when we get off the plane, just like we had done in Chile, just like we had done, well, not really in New York City, because you know how America, we roll. Nothing was really going on there. Hey, pandemic? What's going on? We go to the COVID screening in Japan, and I just remember telling the Japanese girl, like, oh yeah, we went to Antarctica. They were like, please fill out where you came from. And we're like, well, we went to Chile, but we stayed there like one night, and we were really in Antarctica, but we weren't really in Antarctica. Is Antarctica a country? Is it a continent? Is it a territory? I don't know. And I even found out how to say it in Japanese. Nankyoku Tairiku. Nankyoku Tairiku is Antarctica. I think I'm getting it right. I'm sorry if it's wrong. I don't have any notes with me. But yeah, I'd say it. And they didn't really know until, like, one of them looked it up on their phone. They were like, oh, that place. Nankyoku Tairiku. Of course. Why didn't I know? Antarctica. It was pretty hilarious explaining it to them. So the Japanese COVID test is interesting because they don't do the swab thing, because you know how here in Japan they're a lot about cleanliness and stuff, and that's very important to them. So they basically handed us a test tube and a funnel and said, spit into this test tube until your spit hit this black line, and then you're done. Hand it back to us. That was the COVID test. Yeah, real talk. I felt like I was on Nickelodeon Double Dare. You know, like, how fast can you fill up this this container full of slime or something like that? It was nuts. It was crazy. So we did that. We took the test. And then we were kind of in a rush because our bus to go to the base came at like a certain time. It was like at 7 we had to be there, and we still hadn't gotten our luggage. We hadn't cleared immigration yet, so they had to give us like an expedited pass. And we basically power walked / ran to get our luggage, use the bathroom, whatever, and then get to our bus to the base. So there was that. We get to we're at this point, it's nighttime. We're super tired. We get on the bus, and we get to the base, and everything's chill. We get to our lodging. We find out that, of course, we know, like, we have to stay in this quarantine for 14 days. So we've already missed our flight to Okinawa, but there's a ray of hope. Turns out there was a flight from the AMC passenger terminal. Man, I'm having a hard time talking. AMC passenger terminal at Yokota that was leaving for here, Okinawa, that next morning. Or that next afternoon. and they had 2 flights scheduled, and we were like, oh man, we're gonna get to go home early because we could quarantine at our own house in Okinawa, but we'd have to like stay on the base, and technically the base, if you're going from base to base, that's still, because it's military, we're in that military bubble, we were okay. So we go there, and before we go there, let me back up a little bit, because I don't know, I wasn't feeling like, my stomach wasn't feeling very good that night. So I'm feeling kind of out of it, knocked out. I'm already still tired, and I remember it was super cold. We dragged all of our stuff and we had to walk because there's no bus there this early. So we dragged all of our stuff. We checked in. We found out how to get on the flight, and we're sitting there. The way this works, this is a crazy system. So we're flying a certain military status. It's called Space A. So basically, the way it works is the military is constantly flying flights for different reasons to different bases around the world. But they will take people if they have room, depending on your certain status. So certain people have higher status than other people. If you're there on like a mission, actually, or if you're there on official duty, you have higher priority than somebody who's just like on leave or something. So we're in this lower tier. So our chances of getting a seat were a little bit lower, but it was possible. So we're sitting there in the terminal, and then they tell us basically, because of weather, one of the flights has been canceled. One of the flights was canceled, Joe. So naturally, because we could not sign up early, because we didn't know exactly when we would be, if we would even be at Yokota. We had no idea. So we couldn't schedule it early. So basically, we missed that flight. They took off, they added people, I think like 20-some people got on the flight, and it flew off down here to Okinawa, and we were just kind of stuck. Part of it was anticipated, because we expected to have to stay for, at least 10 days. It changed to 14 with the Omicron variant, and December 1st. But I think we were hoping that we could get on that flight. So we didn't. So we spent the next day just kind of thinking about it. So we checked for more flights, and it turns out there were no more flights until January 7th. And this is like, mid-December at this point. So we're like, oh crap. We might be here until about New Year's. Yeah. So we just sit in a hotel room. We were just there. And we're just, we're confined to the base because we're on COVID quarantine, Japanese COVID quarantine, so we're confined to the base. So we did such things as walk to the BX, walk to the commissary. We went to a library and played a board game, which actually turned out to be very fun, actually. We actually did that. But we went to the USO there. We watched a movie, which they have a really nice USO down there. But we wanted to go home, y'all. So it turns out this story, of course, does have a happy ending, because it turns out that there was a major there, an Air Force guy, who was there on the night or the day that we were supposed to fly out, and he saw us and many others. There was many others. There was probably like 70 plus other people, close to 80 people who, and this is families who were trying to get home back here to Okinawa for Christmas, obviously. So they were down here. He was down here. They flew up missions to bring us home.
That's cool.
To bring us back home. So yeah, next thing we know, we're back. It's a couple days later. It's about a week we spent kind of just there.
Not every day you're riding in the back of the C-130. That's pretty cool. I've never ridden in the back of one like this, like the jump seats and everything. Like this. I've never ridden like this. That's pretty cool. Okay, this is my first time. That's cool. It's the real deal. They have one of these in Suicide Squad, right? It did.
of the story is that we took the C-130, we arrived home, safe and sound, really happy, very happy to be back home in our own beds, and grateful that we had such an experience. But also grateful that we can get back home and resume our lives. My wife can go back to work. I can go back to doing this, which I guess is kind of like work, something like that. But just an incredible, incredible experience. I hope you enjoyed hearing about this epic kind of journey from Okinawa to Antarctica, Antarctica, and back. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. Subscribe to the channel, y'all, because 2022 is going to be the year that things blow up for me. I just know it. I've got a plan. I know it's going to work. I'm super confident, fired up. I'm more motivated than ever to be that force of change in the world. And I've already got all of the foundation laid from all of the work that I did this year. It's going to be awesome, y'all. So subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to my email list on my website, keithhayden.net. Don't forget, you can find me on Twitter as well at KH_author. 2022 is going to be big. Don't miss it. Thanks again for your attention and watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.